Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. The knob clicks off and the hiss keeps going. Wrong sound, wrong time. Steam rolls from two mugs on the counter. A hand touches my shoulder from behind. Drink before it cools. A smile brushes my ear. The gas keeps whispering under the silence I force myself to hold. I'm Ava 27 and I already know this part is the trap. I slide one step sideways like I'm stretching my back. My palm finds the window latch stuck, pressure bites my thumb. I lift the mug, I don't sip. Smells strong, I breathe and watch his eyes for a flicker. He grins too wide and taps his pocket, an alert chirps then dies. Timer, he says casual and his shoulders loosen. The burner stays quiet now but the air feels heavy. I nudge the other mug closer to him. Cheers, I offer and wait for the clink that never comes. He brushes hair off my temple and guides my hand. Big day, he says, voice light like a balloon. What day, I ask, keeping my tone small. His gaze lands on the closed window, then returns. You'll see, he answers, and my throat knots for later. I set my cup down with a soft knock, center of the ring. My phone lights on the counter, screen black again, battery dead by design. I unlock it anyway and start a recording under my thumb. Forgot to turn the heat down, I mutter, moving to the stove. He doesn't look at the knobs, he looks at me not looking. I twist each dial to 0 and feel for the ridge. The whisper fades like an animal crawling away. My chest loosens one notch, only one. He lifts the sugar jar and blocks my reach with a laugh. You take honey, he says, and that detail is wrong. Later, I say, and open the freezer just to hear the seal crack. I watch the reflection in the steel door, his shoulders tense then square. He tracks my hands, not my face, counting moves. I count with him and stay half a beat behind. He hates that delay because it blurs his plan. Toast, he suggests, already reaching for a plate. Running late, I counter, already stepping away from the island. I angle my body between him and the window. Latch up finally, cold air knifes in and changes the play. He laughs thinly and shuts it halfway with one finger. I lift the mug again and let a dot touch my lip. Bitterness flashes hard, chemical, not kitchen, and I pull back fast. His smile freezes, then resets like a card trick. Too hot, I cough, hand over mouth. He nods and relaxes at the excuse I hand him. Switch with me, I say, like I'm indulging him. He taps his rim just once, then pushes mine forward. I take the offer and set the cups side by side. My wrist bumps his and I feel a tremor. Not nerves, anticipation, like a runner waiting for the gun. His phone lights again and turns over in his palm. A banner flashes and disappears under his thumb. He pockets it and reaches for a drawer near the stove. I step in and grab a spoon before he does. Stirring helps, I say, then stir the wrong cup on purpose. He chuckles and leans back against the counter, too casual. The spoon taps the rim and I count those taps. One for him, one for me, one for luck I never trusted. I stop stirring and set the spoon between us, neutral ground. First sip wins, I say, and watch his throat tense. He lifts, hesitates tiny, then lowers and studies the surface. I lift, pause longer, and let the steam fog my lashes. We mirror each other and neither moves first. I tip the cup and let the liquid touch my tongue again. Not my blend, I murmur, and his knuckles turn white. He tries humor and it lands like a dull coin. Don't be dramatic, he nudges my elbow with two fingers. I rotate the handle and edge toward the sink. Water on, cup under, rinse just the rim, simple stall. His jaw ticks, small, violent, like the plan just lost a screw. I kill the faucet and listen to the house breathe. The detector on the wall shows a blank face, no light. He follows my glance and lifts his mug halfway. Drink with me, he urges, tone sweet over steel. My skin answers before my mouth does, every nerve says later. I hold up the cup as if to toast his patience. My smile carries teeth this time, bright, unkind, final. He reads it and understands the new game. We stand there with warm poison between us. Only one of us plans to swallow tonight. Water thunders in the shower while I stand dry behind the door. I keep the spray aimed at tile and count his footsteps. Cabinet opens, metal clinks, a quick pour into the sink. I hold my breath and listen for relief or regret. Only the drain answers, which means he is careful. I cut the water and step onto the hallway mat. He calls out about breakfast with a bright upward lilt. My towel squeaks against the wall as I stall. I catch my eyes in the mirror and steady them. Fear sharpens decisions more than coffee ever could. The hallway monitor shows a dead dot and no chirp. I slide off the cover and stare at an empty slot. Edges are scraped like someone bulleted open. In the trash, I find the POW. Our cell under peels. He removes safeguards first, which means he plans. I load a spare from my purse and snap the lid. The green pulse returns, small but stubborn and brave. I angle the face toward the kitchen like a camera. Every beat decides whether I live or edit later. The light keeps blinking and I start counting again. I text a single line to Myra with a neutral emoji. Check in 10, nothing dramatic, no panic, just protocol. If I'm wrong, she teases me later over dumplings. If I'm right, she brings noise and witnesses and heat. Either way, I am not alone in this room. I walk back in and the cups have traded sides. He leans on the counter with easy posture and focus. Yours is there, he gestures with 2 fingers. I track the rim I touched earlier with a glance. He tracks my glance, which tells me where to look. I brush past him and feign clumsiness with a quick sway. My lip touches the surface for half a heartbeat. A metal bite sparks at the tip of my tongue. I pull a slow breath through my nose to steady. I choose not to swallow and that choice holds. Let's get air, I say, already reaching for the latch. His palm lands lightly on the frame and stops it. Rain later, he smiles like whether ever mattered here. I back off 1 step and keep my tone mild. He hates mild because it steals momentum. New batteries for the hallway thing, I mention, almost bored. He glances left and then he nods a fraction. Thought it beeped last night, he tosses out like lint. I nod along and rinse the spoon for noise. He swivels his foot and the message is no. I mark my cup with a crooked smear of jam. No drama, just a tiny flag on white porcelain. He watches my hands, so I let him see that. Then I switch coasters and leave the smear behind. He misses it and my chest lifts 1 notch. His phone vibrates against the counter like a wasp. He flips it face down and keeps his smile steady. I goes a step closer and catch the caller ID. Unknown number, no picture, 1 word in all caps. He silences it and his jaw twitches once. Walk with me around the block, I suggest softly. He blocks the path with a hip and a lazy stretch. We have plans in 30, he offers like a prize. I check the clock and pretend to consider schedules. Inside, the calendar that matters counts heartbeats. I step into the bedroom for a charger and pause. His coat hangs heavy on the chair like a warning. Inside the inner pocket, I find a blister strip half torn. The label shows a name I recognize from cautionary posts. I slide 1 square free and slip it into my sock. Back in the kitchen, he has wiped the counter dry. My flagged cup now sits near his elbow like bait. Try again, he murmurs, almost kind, almost tender. I reach and knock the rim against my tooth on purpose. A tiny splash hits my wrist and my skin tingles. Clumsy today, he laughs and offers a dish towel. I press it to my arm and watch for numbness. The spot goes prickly first and then oddly cool. Skin tells truths long before paperwork ever does. I fold the towel and hide the patch from him. Myra calls early, bless her impatience, and I answer hands-free. Good morning, she says, chipper and suspicious at once. All good, I reply, steady and just a little bright. He glances up, polite smile fixed for outside ears. Swing by, she adds, and I hear her car door slam. He raises his cup, then sets it down without drinking. We should go soon, he offers, eyes flicking to the hall. Soon, I echo and stand between him and the doorway. I lift my drink and angle it toward his lips. Switch for luck, I say, and he stills mid-breath. He taps his rim once and doesn't move to trade. A beat stretches long enough to show his choice. We hold the silence like rope, testing the knot. My hand doesn't shake now because doubt is dying. He blinks first, and that is the crack I needed. The hallway unit chirps faintly and then grows louder. Gas residue wakes it up like a dog hearing boots. He flinches and masks it with a joke I don't catch. I push the window wide and let the room reset. Behind us, the alarm keeps climbing, and so will I. The hallway unit ramps up and he lunges for it. He fumbles with the casing while I cross to the desk. 1 swipe wakes his laptop and a calendar square pops. Tomorrow at noon, office visit. My name sits beside a payout code. My pulse steadies then slows because patterns finally align. He kills the beeping and calls out something cheerful from the hall. I close the lid with 2 fingers and slip back to the sink. Steam curls from the cups I did not ask for. I turn on the tap and rinse my wrists for time. Footsteps return and the kitchen tightens like a knot. False alarm, he offers, voice smooth as glass. Good thing you checked, I answer, keeping my face neutral. He moves near the doorway, blocking an easy exit. I reach for my keys on the hook, then stop midway. He tracks the pause in W. We both feel the shift. Let's eat out, I say, lifting a jacket. He shakes his head and pats his pocket with a soft tap. We're staying in, comes lighter than the words deserve. I hang the jacket and keep my tone flat. Inside, I choose to survive the next 10 minutes. I slide my phone under a dish towel and tap record. A red dot glows against the edge like a tiny lighthouse. Can you grab the mail, I ask, already glancing at the door. He hesitates, then shrugs like it's nothing. Keys clink and I exhale through my teeth. As the door clicks, I move desk again. I skip the calendar and open downloads with a quick tap. Signed forms stare back with my neat signature. The strokes are mine, but the dates are wrong. A camera sound chirps as I snap screenshots. The lock turns, I shut the lid and spin away. He drops envelopes on the counter with a practiced smile. Bills, he mutters and nudges one toward me. The top page reads welcome packet with an agent name. I slide it back untouched like a hot pan. Try the tea, he urges, pushing the nearer cup. I raise it halfway and study the surface. He mirrors me exactly, then lowers his own. We hover at that awful middle where lies breathes. I blink twice and choose a new pressure point. Fine wine then, I say, walking to the cabinet. I pull 2 clean glasses and set them down hard. He brightens and turns toward the drawer by habit. A small bottle appears and vanishes in his palm. I face him and wait for his next move. Open it here, I suggest, tapping the counter. He laughs and looks for the opener near the stove. I watch his hands, not his grin, because hands confess. He reaches for the cups instead, casual and careless. I slide the glasses between us like a barricade. The hallway unit chirps again and he winces. New battery, I say, letting the words hang heavy. He lifts his shoulders and drops them like nothing matters. I tilt my head toward the desk and hold his eyes. He does not ask what I touched, which answers plenty. My sock presses against the blister square I stole. I pull it out and place it next to his phone. Wrong vitamins, I offer, almost teasing. He looks at the stamp and swallows once. His thumb hovers over the screen, then withdraws. Where did you find that, finally, low and tight? In your coat, I say, picking the simple truth. Why were you in my coat, he counters without breath. I was cold, I lie, and we both let it sit. He steps closer and the kitchen thins to a line. I tap my hidden recorder under the towel twice. Let's make a deal, I say softly, choosing firmness. You drink from mine, I drink from yours. He stares like I just flipped gravity on him. Then he lifts his cup and smiles too slowly. On 3, I suggest, holding steady and calm. He nods, eyes never leaving my mouth. 1, his throat bobs. 2, my grip tightens until the handle bites. 3, I don't move and neither does he. The red dot keeps burning under the towel. He sets his cup down with exaggerated care. Ridiculous, he mutters and reaches for my beverage. I pull it back and angle it toward his lips. Prove it, I whisper, and we lock in. His phone buzzes with a sharp, insistent trill. He flips it and a bank icon flashes bright. He kills the call, then wipes his thumb across the glass. Spam, he shrugs, but the muscle in his jaw ticks. Money means motive, and he knows I saw it. Walk me through your agenda, I say, neutral and plain. No agenda, he replies, leaning on the island. Tomorrow at noon, I continue, letting it land. His eyes narrow and then smooth out like a sheet. I give him silence and he fills it with heat. You're spiraling, he tries, kind voice over a hard core. Maybe, I allow, because softness opens doors. Then help me stop, I add, offering him one exit. He lifts the bottle again and uncaps with a clink. I watch the neck, not the label, for the move. He hovers over my glass and pauses a breath. I tilt it away and he adjusts midair. The pour misses and dribbles onto the counter. He grins, but a vein jumps near his temple. Precision betrayed him and he felt it. I pivot to the sink and set my cup under water. He grabs my wrist, light pressure, friendly on the surface. Don't waste, he murmurs, breath closer than I want. I look at his hand until he releases me. Boundaries reappear, fragile and bright as thread. Tires crunch outside and a car door thuds. I hold his gaze and lift a single finger. Guests, I announce, keeping my tone almost bored. He glances toward the hallway and breathes through his nose. Another door shuts outside and his mask slips a fraction. I move to the entry and crack it an inch. Muffled voices drift up the stairwell like a promise. He stays rooted by the counter, calculating angles and clocks. I slide the chain across with a soft scrape. If he runs past me and I'm ready. Last chance, I tell him, not loud, not weak. Say you altered it, say you plan to swap. He stares at my phone under the towel and goes pale. Footsteps hit our landing, firm and unhurried and near. He finally speaks, and what he chooses will decide everything. Knuckles rap once and his mouth opens like a trapdoor. Prank, he blurts, palms up, eyes on the chain. Footsteps pause outside and the hall goes still. I keep the door cracked and let air in. He shifts weight, hunting space, hunting time. Who's there? I call, voice bright and normal. Me, Mara answers, keys jangling like tiny bells. He flinches at her name and the crack widens. I slide the chain off with a slow scrape. He stays planted, calculating his next line. Myra steps in and reads the room in one glance. Morning, she says, easy on the surface. She eyes the twin cups and lifts a brow. The unit on the wall ticks out a tiny pulse. He swallows once and pastes on a grin. Tea, he gestures, casual and thin. After a taste test, I cut in and lift mine. Myra moves closer and places a finger on the rim. Let him go first, she says, cheerful and sharp. His shoulders stiffen under the friendly tone. Relax, he murmurs, reaching for the nearest handle. He stops halfway and scratches his neck instead. Myra looks at my wrist, then down at the towel. Burn, she asks, already reading the answer. I tilt my arm and the patch prickles again. Another knock hits the frame, heavier and impatient. Daniel from next door peers around the jam. Heard the beeping, he says, eyes flicking everywhere. I wave him inside and keep my body between exits. The room warps as 3 witnesses change the math. Let's reset, I say, pointing to the cups. Random pick, Myra suggests, shuffling them with quick hands. He watches her like a cat tracks a laser. She finishes with a tap and steps back. Choose blind, she says, singing it like a game. He grabs the left and then switches to the right. A tiny smear on the base gives away the dodge. I let silence expand until it presses his lungs. Daniel clears his throat and shifts closer to my shoulder. The kettle clicks in the background like a metronome. Before anyone drinks, I say, pulling my phone free. I set it face up with the waveform jumping. It records, I add, almost polite. He laughs once and rubs his temple too hard. Myra trades a glance with me and nods. Tell them you're paranoid, he offers, voice silky and thin. Tell them you poured mine, I answer, voice steady and cool. Daniel leans on the island with folded arms. You two want privacy, he asks, not moving an inch. The question hangs there like a loaded switch. He tries the soft root and steps to my side. Stress, he murmurs, eyes shiny and pleading. Then show calm, I reply, lifting the cup toward him. He holds my gaze and doesn't lift his hand. That pause is louder than any confession. Myra opens a drawer and pulls out a marker. Label them, she says, numbers 1 and 2. She writes on tape and sticks it to each base. We all watch where his eyes land first. They land on number 2 and stay there. I reach for number 2 and drift toward the sink. He darts in front of me with a sudden block. No waste, he snaps, temper leaking through the veneer. I stop short and my pulse steadies against the edge. He catches himself and pastes on charm again. Daniel picks up number 1 and sniffs without comment. He brings it toward his lips with maddening slowness. Wait, I tell him, sharp enough to cut. I slide number 2 into his free hand. Try this one, I add, eyes never leaving the target. He reaches across and intercepts Daniel with a tight laugh. Please don't, he urges, voice climbing a note. Why not, Daniel asks, casual and cold. Because it's too strong, he blurts, then blinks. Myra exhales and even the hallway seems to listen. I lift my phone and hit speaker for the recorder. Say that again, I prompt, calm as winter. He pinches the bridge of his nose and groans. Fine, it's not your blend, he mutters, defeated and hot. Whose blend? Myra asks, not blinking. His jaw works and then he goes for the smear. He grabs number 1 and swaps it onto my coaster. The tape scrapes and the move is obvious and clumsy. Daniel whistles once, low and disappointed. I feel something in me harden and lock. Enough, I say, and set both cups aside. I pull the blister square from my pocket and drop it. It lands near his phone with a dull slap. Explain that, I tell him, keeping my tone flat. He stares and the mask finally cracks. He reaches for the strip and I bat his hand away. Myra steps in front of him, small and immovable. Do you want an ambulance? She asks, straight and clear. No one's sick, he fires back too fast. Then drink, I whisper, and even he hears the ending. He snatches number one and takes a heroic gulp. He swallows, then forces a grimace into a smirk. Happy, he asks, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. Finish it, Daniel says, bored and deadly. The cup trembles and he sets it down. A new sound intrudes, faint and rhythmic, from his pocket. He pulls out the phone and a countdown blinks on screen. 90 seconds to something I don't know yet. I hit video and capture the glow in his face. Timer for what? I ask, letting the seconds tick loud. Laundry, he tosses, eyes sliding to the door. Show me, I press, finger hovering over call. He hesitates, then kills the counter with one swipe. Myra checks the hall and plants herself in the frame. No more corridors for him to run through. I open the cabinet above the stove and reach high. The smell up there hits like a bad memory. Packets sit behind a flour bag with tidy care. I tip them forward and let them spill like cards. He closes his eyes for one long beat. Stop, he whispers and lifts both hands. Talk, I answer, because I am done dancing. He nods and looks at the cups and then the recorder. Fine, he breathes, voice narrow and small. I ruined it, he adds, and the room shifts. Ruined what? Myra asks, arms still folded. The tea, he answers, staring at the sink. Why alter mine? I push, keeping each word clean. He shakes his head like a man in a tunnel. Debt, he mutters and clamps his mouth shut. I step closer and hold the phone near his chin. Say the action, I insist, not letting him blur it. He backs into the counter and knocks the spoon. The packet in your cup, he exhales, finally whole. My hands shake once and then stop forever. Daniel pulls out his own phone and dials fast. Stay, he tells him, tone light and iron. Myra rests a steady palm on my shoulder. I breathe through the tremor and fix on the evidence. What I needed is now voice and video. He darts for the door and clips my hip. I snag his sleeve and he yanks free with a twist. Daniel steps sideways and bodies him into the fridge. Metal thuds and the timer on his screen restarts. I hit call and ask for officers and a unit. He collapses onto the chair and presses fingertips to temples. I wasn't going to finish it, he whimpers, eyes unfocused. Finish what? I ask, refusing to complete the sentence. No one answers because the truth already did. Outside, sirens rise and none of us move. The door swings wide and uniforms fill the frame. He bolts toward the balcony and I cut him off. Boots scrape tile and a voice orders hands visible. He stops, breathing hard, eyes hunting an exit. I plant my feet and refuse to blink. Evidence, I say, pushing my phone across the counter. The waveform rolls on screen like a heartbeat. Myra points to the two vessels lined like traps. Daniel nods toward the open cabinet above the range. Gloves snap and an officer lifts a packet with care. He pivots and lunges for the sink switch. I beat him by a step and yank the cord. The disposal dies and silence hits like a slap. He freezes, fingers hovering over a dead button. His jaw grinds and I taste copper in memory. Device is down and officer orders with clipped calm. He places his phone slowly, eyes never leaving mine. I slide the strip I found earlier beside it. Another cop unzips a field kit and opens a vial. The room holds its breath like a held note. Any ingestion? The taller one asks, tone clinical. He sipped one, Daniel answers, arms loose and ready. He can wait, Myra adds, gaze flat as glass. They note it and keep the bottles separated. I watch hands because hands betray intentions. I airdrop files to Myra with 3 taps. Screenshots fly from my gallery into hers. A ping from his phone announces a new message. Unknown sender, 3 digits, a sum with commas. He stares at it and then at the cuffs. Separate statements, a voice directs, pointing to rooms. Take mine here, I answer, keeping him in view. I show the timer clip in the chirping device log. I show the text where Myra pushed arrival early. Everything aligns like teeth on a zipper. He stumbles backward and sags against a chair. Dizzy, he whispers, palm to forehead. Eyes half closed. A medic checks his pulse and murmurs numbers. Stable, the medic announces, already unimpressed. He opens one eye and shuts it again. The test strip in the vial turns a new shade. The officer holds it near his body camera. Documented, he states, and caps the sample tight. He labels both cups with time and initials. My breath finally evens, but not from relief. He snatches at his phone with a sudden swipe. Myra smacks his wrist and the device skids. It cracks against the baseboard and stops face up. The cloud icon spins and then locks behind code. An officer bags it while he sputters air. I open my email and forward the audio. Subject line simple, no flair, only facts. I watch the send bar crawl to complete. Copies land in 2 inboxes and a drive. He sees it and his shoulders cave inward. Any other storage, the shorter officer prompts. Vent, I answer, chin flicking toward the grate. They unscrew it and pull a tiny lens and card. He exhales a curse and almost folds in half. The bodycam leans closer as proof breathes. Under the drawer lip a strip of tape peeks. Daniel peels it and lifts a small key. A locked tin inside the pantry clicks open. Forms sit inside with my printed name and date. An officer flips pages while another films every line. He lunges for the tin and Daniel hooks an arm. They tumble one step and the cuffs come out. Metal touches skin and he jerks once. He spits a word I won't repeat and swallows hard. The room goes sharp and time finally moves. Anything else dangerous here, the tall one asks. Check the sugar, Myra answers, voice low and sure. They test it and the swab blooms new color. A camera gets close and holds steady. My stomach flips but my hands stay still. He tries sincerity and turns toward me with damp eyes. I panicked, he whispers, mouth quivering like a bad actor. Speak to counsel, the shorter one cuts in. He lowers his head and stares at his shoes. That posture used to work on me, not now. They guide him toward the door and he twists. I loved you, he breathes barely above air. I keep my face unreadable and tuck the towel away. The officer behind him glances back at me. I nod once and the hallway swallows their steps. The medic asks if I need a scan. Later, I answer, voice steady, not heroic. I rinse my wrist under cool water and watch sensation return. Every nerve agrees with the choice I made. Myra's palm finds my shoulder and stays. Station now or later, the tall one asks. Now I choose because momentum protects truth. I gather the bag with labeled items and images. Daniel locks up behind us with a firm twist. We step into the corridor and the building listens. On the stairs, a neighbor peeks through a cracked door. I keep walking, spine straight, mouth quiet. The siren fades as the elevator opens. My reflection stares back and holds eye contact. I nod to her because hesitation is over. The pen scratches while I recount the sequence in plain lines. Across the table, a recorder spins and captures my breaths. An officer slides water toward me and waits. I want everything documented, I say, each word clipped. On my lap, my hands finally go still for now. He sits in another room behind glass and mirrors. His shoulders hunch and then square and then droop. A public defender leans close and whispers strategy. I watch through the slot until the view blurs. If he looks up, I will not flinch, not once. Walk me through the switch, the detective prompts, calm voice. I demonstrate with 2 paper cups and measured movements. He observes my wrists like they hold dials. I keep the timeline strict because confusion breeds doubt. Every beat lands and the chart grows teeth. A technician enters carrying sealed pouches with labels. He inventories each item aloud with steady cadence. My audio file plays through small speakers at volume. At the phrase about the packet, someone in back exhales. My stomach tightens because the next part matters most. Any reason he wanted you harmed, the detective asks. Money, I answer, because anything softer rots resolve. He nods and flips to a printout from the desk. Numbers line up beneath my name like marching orders. Tomorrow at noon, I add, and his pen underlines it. They move me to a quiet corner for a call. The insurer picks up after a short synthetic jingle. I speak slowly and request a freeze on my file. A supervisor joins and asks for a reference phrase. I give the code from the brochure captured on video. We see recent updates, the supervisor admits, voice tight. Pause them, I say, each syllable like a gate. Effective immediately, she responds and sends confirmation. The email arrives on my phone with a ping. Relief stirs, then quiets because this is not over. Back in the hall, the medic takes my vitals again. Any burning on the tongue, she asks, brisk but gentle. Pins earlier, I reply, pressing 2 fingers. To lip. She logs it and offers charcoal with a straw. I drink because certainty beats pride by miles. Through the glass, he watches me accept the treatment. He tilts his head and tries a pity mask. The lawyer murmurs and he nods like an obedient child. That angle used to pierce me right through. Now it slides off dull and harmless as dust. An investigator returns from our place with a clear bag. Inside sits a small funnel and a stained spoon. Photos accompany it with timestamps and locations. The detective lays them out like cards at war. Found behind the pantry bin, he states, steady and cool. Do you want to request a no-contact order, she asks. Yes, I answer because fear loves doorways and phones. Paperwork arrives with boxes and signatures. I initial where the sticky flags direct me. The final stroke feels like a lock clicking right. Booking complete, someone announces down the corridor. He walks past in cuffs between two officers. Our eyes connect for a fraction, then break. Tell them I'm sick, he begs, voice rough and hoarse. No one responds, and the elevator doors close like jaws. Myra waits by the vending machine with stubborn patience. Daniel stands guard near the exit with arms folded. I tell them the order is in motion. Myra exhales and rests her head against mine. Daniel nods once and the triangle holds. A detective waves me toward an interview booth. His phone just synced, he reports, jaw tight. He plays a voicemail with a muffled voice. Clock's due tomorrow, the stranger mutters, annoyed and urgent. My skin crawls because someone else helped wind it. Recognize the voice, he asks, eyes narrowing a notch. No, I answer and mean it without doubt. Any shared acquaintances with access to the home, he probes. Maintenance and a delivery service, I reply, keeping it lean. He writes two names and circles them twice. Check your accounts tonight, he advises, practical and firm. We think he moved funds rapidly before this morning. I nod and open my banking app with thumb unlock. Notifications stack like hailstones across the screen. I forward them to his email with one tap. We ride to the apartment with a patrol escort. The hallway smells like disinfectant and wet wool. Inside, the air hangs dense with stale adrenaline. I pack a small bag with essentials and records. Every choice fits into a backpack without ceremony. The locksmith meets us by early afternoon. He swaps deadbolts and codes with brisk efficiency. I sign the invoice and keep his card. He hands me 3 new keys and 1 warning. Don't share copies until this cools, he says, plain and true. An officer photographs the stove, the drawer, the vent. He asks me to point at items without touching. I do and then step aside for his camera. The lens clicks and the moment feels distant. I mark each place in my head like scars. Where will you stay, Myra asks, voice low. With you, I answer, and she nods before I finish. We leave with my bag and the evidence receipts. Daniel locks the door behind us with care. The hallway lights flicker and I keep walking. At her place, I shower off the morning with grit. In the mirror, I practice a neutral face and wince. On the couch, I open a blank document titled Timeline. I type bullet points with times and verbs. When words wobble, I breathe and try again. The detective calls at dusk with news. They trace the voicemail to a prepaid device. Location puts it near a check cashing shop. Footage shows a man in a baseball cap. He pauses and lets that detail sit like bait. Not him, I ask, heartbeat kicking harder. Too broad to confirm, he answers, careful and slow. We'll pull higher quality by morning. Stay reachable, he adds, then clears his throat. We also contacted the agent for a statement. I dial the agent before doubt can volunteer excuses. She answers on the second ring with crisp diction. I tell her I never signed anything this month. She hesitates, then acknowledges digital paperwork on file. I request the IP addresses and access logs immediately. Email lands with an attachment of raw entries. I read strings of numbers I barely understand. An analyst friend owes me one from years ago. I send the file with a tiny message and nothing else. 2 minutes later, he replies with one line. Those logins came from your living room router, he writes. My chest goes cold and then oddly steady. I forward it to the detective with 3 sentences. He responds with a short acknowledgement and a promise. I close the laptop and stare at the ceiling. My phone buzzes with an unlisted jail callback message. I do not accept, but it leaves a recording. I listen once with my thumb on pause. You misunderstood the plan, his voice rasps tight and needy. Call me back now, it ends empty and raw. Myra brings soup and sits without speaking. We eat in small bites and long silences. I taste nothing, but I finish every spoonful. Fuel beats flavor when a body shakes. After, she squeezes my fingers and releases. The detective texts at 9 with a short clip. Surveillance shows him buying blister packs with cash. The cashier stamps the receipt for a loyalty discount. He smiles on camera like he is tasting victory. I watch 3 times and feel nothing but math. Prelim tox confirms adulteration, another text follows. Your lip sample shows trace contact. Your choice not to swallow changed the outcome. I put the phone down and inhale deeply. Finally, a truth lands without wobble or gloss. Night stretches and I lie awake between alerts. Every creak drags me back to the kitchen tile. I see hands moving and cups trading places. I see the tape, the strip, the grin. D8. And I open my eyes and count 10 steady breaths. Morning brings a new message from the insurer legal team. Policy amendment voided due to irregularities, it reads. They request a formal statement to seal the record. I confirm availability and send them the file archive. This part tastes like accountability done right. We meet detectives at the courthouse mid-morning. An advocate guides me through metal detectors and forms. She speaks in plain language and keeps pace with me. My signature goes on a petition for a longer order. The judge grants it after 4 minutes of questions. Outside the courtroom, the agent approaches with counsel. She offers a terse apology for procedural lapses. I nod once and turn toward the stairs. I do not accept comfort from strangers today. Trust will need proof, not polished apologies. On the sidewalk, reporters cluster with hungry eyes. I keep my head forward and my stride even. Is it true he altered your drink? One calls. Are you seeking damages? Another shouts. I answer nothing because attention is not protection. Back at the apartment, we do a final sweep. I empty a drawer of anything with my name. Myra carries a bag while Daniel watches the hall. I shut the window we opened during the alarm. The latch clicks and memory flashes like a knife. My key turns, then I stop and hand it back. Daniel pockets it and gives me a spare. You'll want distance, he says, gentle and firm. I nod and slide the spare into my wallet. Leaving is a decision I can actually control. At Myra's place, I set the backpack by the door. I power down my phone and lock it in a box. For 10 minutes I breathe without screens or noise. My body shakes and then steadies like a tuned engine. I do not apologize for the tremor anymore. I call my mother and give the trimmed version. She cries softly and keeps it brief. Come home for a week, she asks, practical and fierce. I will after statements, I promise, voice low. I hang up and stare at the ceiling again. The detective checks in around noon with a small update. Bail hearing set for tomorrow morning, he notes. Prosecutor wants the recording played in full. Be ready to testify to the sequence, he adds. I write the order of events on a note card. Myra quizzes me with short prompts and longer pauses. We practice answers without adjectives or decoration. Every reply stays anchored to what happened. No speculation, no dramatics, no stray flourishes. Facts stand and I stand with them. Evening arrives and I return to my place once. A patrol car idles down the block as insurance. I walk through the rooms with measured steps. I bag items for the hearing and lock drawers. On the counter, the dish towel sits folded like a flag. I pause at the stove and touch the cool knob. For a second, my throat tightens with old disbelief. That second passes and I step back. Fear still speaks, but it no longer commands. I close the door and test the handle twice. Back at Myra's, we set alarms for dawn. I lay out clean clothes and polished shoes. I write one last note to myself in big letters. Believe what you saw. The words anchor me better than sleep ever could. Morning breaks hard and fast and necessary. We drive to court with coffee and silence. In the hallway, his lawyer nods without warmth. He enters in chains that do not rattle. I sit behind the railing and keep my shoulders square. The prosecutor calls me first with a steady hand. I take the oath and speak into a firm microphone. I recount the sequence from hiss to cuffs. I keep verbs active and details sharp. The judge listens with eyes that do not wander. The recording plays and the room holds its breath. At the line about the packet, someone near me gasps. He stares at the table and does not blink. His jaw moves like he is chewing gravel. My hands rest flat on wood, warm and steady. Cross-examination arrives with narrow questions and traps. Did you misunderstand his joke? The lawyer needles slick tone. No, I answer, because jokes do not require hidden supplies. Did you threaten him? He prods, lowering his chin. No, I reply, because survival is not a threat. The judge rules on the order with decisive language. No contact, no third-party messages, no approach. He looks at me once as deputies guide him away. I look right through him to the exit sign. That green rectangle becomes a finish line in miniature. Outside, air feels different because my choices stack. Myra squeezes my hand once and releases. Daniel offers a ride back without questions. I nod and climb in with a quiet exhale. The city keeps moving, and so do I. At home, I change the locks again for my mind. I scrub the counter where the cups once stood. I toss the towel and bleach the sink. None of this erases the morning, but it helps. Action oxygenates the soul more than prayer. I hang a new chime on the door frame. It rings softly and announces each entrance. Not security, no. T-armor, just simple awareness. I like the sound because it keeps me present. Presence kills fog faster than rage. Night returns and I stage the kitchen for clarity. No jars within reach, no unlabeled anything. I print a small checklist and tape it inside the cabinet. Windows open, devices charged, alarm tested. These lines are not paranoia, they are policy. I unroll a mat and stretch until muscles unclench. A bruise blooms on my hip where he clipped me. I press it and decide not to cover it. Evidence belongs to me now, body included. I will not hide the map I walked. My phone vibrates with an email from the agent. Account secured, claim closed, apology attached. I archive it without replying or thanking. Some doors do not deserve my voice. Silence can be a clean blade when used right. I sit at the table and open a fresh file. Title reads new update in plain letters. I type the first line and let truth lead. I think I caught him trying to erase me. I am sure enough to keep writing.